What if the most baffling, jaw-dropping, sleep-destroying mysteries of our time are happening right now on the internet and nobody has answers? Not the FBI, not Reddit's finest armchair detectives, not even the algorithm. Buckle up, folks. We're going in. Every few months, the internet collectively loses its mind over a mystery it cannot solve. A disappearance with no body, no suspects, no logic. A crime so bizarre the police just stare at the file and shrug. A Reddit thread that spirals into 14,000 comments and still ends with a question mark. These aren't ancient cold cases buried in dusty archives. These are recent. These are viral. These are the ones that had millions of people refreshing their feeds at 2 a.m., desperate for an answer that never came. Today, we're covering the unsolved mysteries that absolutely broke the internet, and what the mainstream, the skeptics, and the tinfoil hat brigade all have to say about them. Let's start with what the official record actually says, because yes, some of these cases have files, task forces, and very confused law enforcement attached to them. First up, the case of Amy Mihaljevic, 8 years old, abducted in 1989 from Bay Village, Ohio. Her body was found months later, but the killer, never identified. The FBI has reportedly worked this case for decades. Zero arrests. The mainstream position is simple. This was a sophisticated predator who left almost nothing behind. The case remains one of the most haunting child abductions in American history, according to law enforcement files cited by BuzzFeed's ongoing community reporting. Then there's the West Memphis 3, a case that did result in convictions, then a shocking reversal. 3 teenage boys were convicted of murdering 3 children in 1993. The internet exploded when new DNA evidence emerged that matched none of the convicted men. They were released in 2011 under an Alford plea, meaning they said the state has enough evidence to convict while maintaining their innocence. The actual killer, still formally unidentified, still free. Mainstream legal analysts call this a catastrophic miscarriage of justice rooted in moral panic. Next, the Xavier Dupont de Ligonn's case, a French aristocrat who allegedly murdered his entire family in 2011, then vanished off the face of the earth. The shocking twist that broke the internet recently. Reports surfaced that he may have been posting messages online for up to 6 years after the murders. French authorities have confirmed they are still hunting him. Interpol Red Notice, active. Location, unknown. And don't sleep on the Nylene Marshall disappearance, a 4-year-old girl who vanished during a family outing in Jefferson County, Montana in 1983. No trace, no body, no suspect ever charged. Community members from that region report that locals still talk about it, still feel unsafe, and still have no answers 4 decades later. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because not everyone agrees with how these cases have been handled, and some critics are asking very uncomfortable questions. In the West Memphis 3 case, criminal justice reform advocates point out that the original investigation was driven by satanic panic, a documented social hysteria of the 1980s and 90s, where law enforcement and communities became convinced that ritualistic devil worship was behind violent crimes. Critics argue that investigators saw what they wanted to see, and that the real perpetrator benefited from a community too distracted by mythology to follow actual evidence. Criminologists cite this case as a textbook example of confirmation bias in criminal investigations. On the Xavier Dupont de Ligonn's case, investigative journalists and European crime analysts have raised a pointed question. How does a man on an Interpol Red Notice, with his face on wanted posters across Europe, simply not get caught? Some researchers suggest he may have had help from a network, possibly from within social circles he cultivated before the murders. Others argue French authorities botched the early days of the investigation, allowing a critical window to close. And on internet viral mysteries more broadly, skeptics warn that crowdsourced investigation, while sometimes effective, frequently causes massive collateral damage. Wrong people get named. Innocent families get harassed. Reddit threads turn into digital mob justice. The Boston Marathon bombing investigation of 2013 is the infamous case study here. Reddit confidently identified the bomber as a missing student who turned out to be a victim himself, not a perpetrator. His family was put through unimaginable additional trauma. Critics of internet sleuthing say the pattern repeats itself with every new viral mystery. All right. You've been patient. You waded through the facts. You made it through the nuance. Now it's time for the part of the show where my associate, who I will not vouch for but cannot seem to get rid of, shares his interpretations. Okay, folks, I have someone in the studio who has been sending me encrypted emails for 3 weeks. I finally let them in, against my better judgment. Go ahead. What's the big theory?
Thank you. First, Xavier Dupont de Ligons, a man on an Interpol red notice for over a decade. Spotted nowhere, caught by no one. I want you to think about that.
I'm thinking about it, still thinking, still nothing.
He came from French aristocracy. Old money, old connections. The theory, documented across European true crime communities, is that someone with significant resources helped relocate him. New identity, new country. The messages posted online years after the murders. That's not a ghost. That's a man with a support network.
So you're saying the French aristocracy is running a fugitive relocation service. Fantastic.
I'm saying follow the money. Follow the social connections. Ask who benefits from this case never being closed.
Okay. What else have you got rattling around up there?
The West Memphis 3. The DNA came back. It matched none of the convicted men, but it did return a partial match pointing towards someone connected to one of the victims' families. That information was in the court documents, publicly filed.
Get a load of this. So the real suspect was there the whole time.
In plain sight, and the prosecution never pursued it. Ask yourself why a DA's office would accept an all-forward plea, a technicality that keeps convictions on the books, rather than reopen a clean investigation. Who benefits from the original narrative staying intact?
I mean, the original prosecutors, presumably, their careers, their reputations.
There you go. Now you're asking the right questions.
Oh, I don't love that I agree with you. Keep going. What else?
Internet mysteries, the ones that go viral and then just stop. Ever notice that? A case explodes, millions of people are investigating, and then within 72 hours, the algorithm buries it.
That's called the news cycle. I've heard of it.
Or it's called strategic suppression. Platforms have moderation tools. Content can be quietly deprioritized without being removed. You can't prove it's gone, it's just harder to find.
You cannot be serious. You think someone is manually burying cold case threads on Reddit?
I think powerful people have learned that the internet's attention span is their greatest ally. Run out the clock. Let the thread age. Let the people move on to the next viral thing. The case doesn't get solved, it just gets replaced.
That is deeply upsetting, and I refuse to think about it further. Next theory.
Eileen Marshall, 4 years old, vanishes in 1983. No body, no suspect, no trace. Cases like this, child disappearances with zero physical evidence, have appeared in clusters in specific regions during specific decades.
Clusters? Oh, here we go.
Researchers in investigative journalism have documented cases where local law enforcement failed to connect geographically close disappearances. Whether through incompetence or something more deliberate, the pattern is real. The FBI eventually steps in, but always late, always after the trail goes cold.
So your theory is the FBI is slow.
My theory is that the infrastructure to catch certain kinds of predators existed and wasn't used. And when you look at who controlled those resources and what cases got priority, you find something very uncomfortable.
And what's that?
That the cases which got solved quickly almost always involved victims from wealthy, well-connected families. And the ones that didn't.
Okay, that one I genuinely cannot argue with. That's less conspiracy and more just statistics.
That's all I'm saying. The data is public. Look at it.
I need a drink of water and a lie down. So where does everyone actually agree and where do they split? Agreement. Everyone across the spectrum, mainstream criminologists, skeptic journalists, and yes, even the conspiracy crowd agrees that these cases share a common thread: systemic failures, failed investigations, missed evidence, institutional inertia. Nobody is defending the outcomes here. Divergence. The mainstream says these failures are tragic but explainable, limited resources, imperfect forensic tools of the era, genuine difficulty of the cases. The alternative perspective says confirmation bias and institutional self-protection played a huge role, that investigators locked onto convenient suspects and stopped looking. The conspiracy end says the failures are too consistent to be accidental, pointing to patterns of deprioritization based on victims' social status, wealth, and connections. The internet's role is its own flashpoint. Mainstream analysts see crowdsourced investigation as a mixed bag, occasionally useful, frequently harmful. Critics say platforms actively fail to protect the integrity of investigations by allowing harassment and mob dynamics. And the fringe argues the platforms themselves are complicit in letting cases disappear from the public eye once they get too close to uncomfortable truths. Here's what the evidence actually supports. Stripped of all the drama, several of the most viral unsolved mysteries of our era, West Memphis 3, Xavier Dupont de Ligons, Amy Mihaljevic, Nylene Marshall, remain unsolved or controversially resolved for documentable, verifiable reasons. Forensic science was limited. Investigations were compromised by bias, panic, or tunnel vision. And in some cases, like the West Memphis 3, the justice system produced a result that satisfied nobody and left the actual perpetrator unidentified. The internet has genuinely helped surface these cases to new generations of investigators, amateur and professional. But it has also produced dangerous false accusations and harassment of innocent people. The uncomfortable truth. The most credible conspiracy here isn't shadowy elites running fugitive networks. It's systemic inequality in how cases get investigated and prioritized, something researchers have documented rigorously and something that holds up to scrutiny. That is the mystery hiding in plain sight, and that is what should keep you up at night. That's the Unsolved Mysteries file, officially closed, unofficially wide open. Drop your theory in the comments. Hit subscribe if you want the next classified briefing, and remember, the truth doesn't care if you believe it.